Hey Israel, my name is Paula Olmsted from the Silver family. Ray Silver Hateluck is my father. My mother is Irene Silver, both passed. I'm from Samath First Nation. My traditional name is Skathelset.
Israel Srivo Telskui Talit Samath. Hi, my name is Rory and I'm from Samath.
Hello, my name is Ray Silver. My father's name is Ambrose Silver. My mother's name was, her maiden name is Irene Miller. I'm from the Samath First Nations.
We are asked here today to explain the importance of canoes, paddling, journeys. I was introduced to canoe paddling back in 2012, where I first started doing canoeing with the RCMP, and we took 13 youth on a journey, and I've continued this on yearly through the Scholar Path. I'm now with Scholar Path, which is the working with APD, Abbotsford Police Department. We go on healing canoe journeys yearly, teach the importance and the protocols of canoeing and the sacredness of our water.
How were canoes used for our ancestors and how are they used now?
They were used as cars. That was their vehicles. They were used daily for hunting, fishing, traveling. Doing some of the research, I found that they let the children use the canoes just so they would learn, and that's how children played.
What materials were used to build the canoes and paddles?
Well, in the old days, they just used a lot of stone, bone, antler, and stone mallets. But nowadays, we use a lot of power tools now. A lot of power tools do the heavy work. But most builders, they make their own tools to build the canoes now. And today, I know that the people have such a hard time finding logs to build a canoe now. Like they used to be built out of one solid log, but nowadays they use strips. They make their canoes out of strip. They make a strip canoe now. It's less material, quicker work, but like in the old days, they dug it. They used it. They called it dugout, and that's what it is. when you work on a canoe, it's a lot of digging to hollow it out. But you know, it's a lot of work. In the old days, they say it would take a year to build a canoe, and you know, the canoes I worked on with one of my cousins, my brother. It probably took us 3 months to build a. One was a 37-foot canoe, and the other one was a 25-foot canoe, and probably took us 3 months to build them. But you know, I don't know too much about the canoes myself. I know a lot of stories my dad told me about how he lived on canoe, traveled from here down to the old village site called Devil's Run, and that's where they lived for the summer. He said it was quite a life to travel on a canoe. That's the only way they traveled. But on this reserve, we don't have any more. There isn't a canoe builder on this reserve anymore. I guess because, well, we've got no water here to live on, travel on. There's some tribe. I got family up Chilliwack. They build canoes still. They're really good. They're master builders. but here we lost that art, and it would be nice to see it come back.
Did the use of canoes vary from territory to territory? Is it different shapes and sizes based on water uses like lakes, rivers, and oceans?
Canoes were territory to territory. Canoes were used for the same uses: traveling, hunting, fishing, children playing and learning how to use a canoe. Various sizes, like ocean canoe is a lot deeper than a river canoe, which is a dugout we use here. Art identifies family and territory, styles of the way the canoes are made, materials. Materials can vary on different canoes. Today, with technology now, we use a lot of fiberglass. So the traditional style canoe carved out of cedar is quite rare.
How long does it take to build a canoe? Are there cultural protocols that need to be followed while building one?
Like the old days, it took, like I said, took a year to build a canoe. They dig it out so far, then they have to let the wood dry, season. They cover it up and let it season. But nowadays, the way they work canoes, it goes pretty quick. But it's still a lot of work. But I think a lot of the guys, they go bathe, cleanse themselves before they start their work, purify themselves.
How many people can fit in a canoe?
How many people can fit in a canoe? It can go from one person to, on my journey that I do every year, 16 people or more, just depending how large this canoe is. In a fiberglass canoe, we can fit, like in Stella's Bath, we fit 11. And that's a fiberglass 13 person. Yeah.
Do people traditionally make their own paddles? How does the artwork on the paddles and canoes reflect the groups and individuals?
Well, they used just like the canoes, they had canoe builders from each tribe, and then same with the canoes. They had special people make their paddles for the paddles. Then same with the art as well. The art was used, it just depicted the family crest, where the family came from. But every part of the canoe, like the use of the canoe, was done by separate people. You had a canoe builder, like the paddle maker, and you had an artist do the work.
How are canoe pullers chosen for their positions within a canoe?
Experience. They will see how long that, so how endurance for canoe pulling is big. You gotta have a strong bowsman, somebody to keep the rhythm, especially if you're racing, strength, and you know, just how long the person has been pulling for. That person could have been training from when when he or she has been really tiny until the adult. So it's all based on experience.
What kind of materials are used for the artwork on paddles?
Painting, carving, and burning, I believe.
Yeah.
Mainly carving though. Carving.
A lot of those. I guess a lot of them were carved, but most of them were just painted. Yeah. Nowadays we just use acrylic paint.
How are the canoes and paddles stored when not in use? Why is this important?
Under shelter if possible. out of the weather when we're not using them, like in the winter months, out of direct heat. Upside down to keep the water out. Yeah, a lot of canoe pullers, canoe groups have actual canoe sheds where they stack their canoes upside down, especially for the racing canoes, the warrior canoes.
Yeah, the canoes, cedar canoes have to be covered. The old days they would cover them with woven cedar mats or woven cattail mats. The reason why they had to be covered because the heat of the sunlight would crack a canoe if it was uncovered.
How does the canoes relate to us as grade 8s, moving into high school as groups and individuals?
That's a big question. My experience with the Canoe Journey, I'll just tell you a little bit about the Canoe Journey, is we take youth probably from, I've seen children about 5, 6 on our canoes and on our journeys, and we take them when they're about 13 because we're camping, and it's a 10-day journey where you're paddling you're up at 5:30 in the morning and you're done probably at 11 o'clock at night, sometimes in the early hours of the morning because you're paddling and then you do protocols. You see the changes from when you bring that child on a journey. They're waking up at 5:30 where they don't want to get up in the morning. They get on that canoe, they learn how to hold that paddle, they learn how to treat that canoe and respect others. They learn the respect of their family, they learn the respect of the paddle, they learn the respect of the canoe, and they learn the respect of that water. And they are told the teachings of canoeing and how that's the pathway of our ancestors when we're doing that journey. And you can feel the difference when you have a happy group of people in that canoe, when you have a happy family, that canoe will glide across that water. When there's conflict within the family, that canoe is very hard to paddle. So there's different changes. That's how I connect this question, is there's different changes through life. They'll find their way, they'll find their own journey.
Yeah, I could see it as, it'd be hard work pulling a canoe up a river, up a stream, across a lake, rough waters. There's always rough waters. As a group, you're pulling together. You learn to pull together, and I think like as in school, you always need. I think you always need somebody beside you to pull with, to be together. You always need somebody to lean on at times. I think that's kind of like what it'd be like going from grade 8 to high school. You always need somebody beside you. To help you along through the hard times. But I think that's kind of what it would be for me.
I find that age group is very confused, finding their way in life and trying to find their own path, create their own path.
Why are paddles shaped differently? How do we identify their uses or nations they come from based on the shapes?
I don't know. I know there's just a couple types of paddles. One just for the regular puller. Then they got the on the bow, stern of the canoe, the back, the steersman. Yeah. They call him a steersman. And he's got he uses a bigger paddle. He needs more strength. You need the bigger guy in the back to steer the paddle. I know it's a bigger paddle, wider paddle, longer paddle. That's it.